many months' observations, are able to discover any kind of regular signal between the questioner and the horse. The Commission found that the methods Hans had been taught were more like teaching children in elementary schools than animal training, and were worthy of scientific examination. But Strumpf and Funkst still had doubts. One finding in particular troubled them. When the questioner did not know the answer or was standing far away, Hans rarely gave the correct answer. This led Funkst and Strumpf to consider whether some sort of unintentional signal had been providing Hans with the answers. As Funkst would describe in his 1911 book, their intuition was right. The questioner's posture, breathing, and facial expression would subtly change around the moment Hans reached the right answer, prompting Hans to stop there. Funkst later tested this hypothesis on human subjects and confirmed his result. What fascinated him most about this discovery was that questioners were generally unaware that they were providing pointers to the horse. The solution to the clever Hans riddle, Funkst wrote, was the unconscious direction from the horse's questioners. The horse was trained to produce the results his owner wanted to see, but audiences felt that this was not the extraordinary intelligence they had imagined. The story of clever Hans is compelling from many angles. The relationship between desire, illusion, and action, the business of spectacles, how we anthropomorphize the non-human, how biases emerge, and the politics of intelligence. Hans had inspired a term in psychology for a particular type of conceptual trap, the clever Hans effect, or observer expectancy effect, to describe the influence of experimenters' unintentional cues on their subjects. The relationship between Hans and von Osten points to the complex mechanisms by which biases find their ways into systems, and how people become entangled with the phenomena they study. The story of Hans is now used in machine learning as a cautionary reminder that you can't always be sure of what a model has learned from the data it has been given. Even a system that appears to perform spectacularly in training can make terrible predictions when presented with novel data in the world. This opens a central question of this book. How is intelligence made, and what traps can that create? At first glance, the story of clever Hans is a story of how one man constructed intelligence by training a horse to follow cues and emulate human-like cognition. But at another level, we see that the practice of making intelligence was considerably broader. The endeavour required validation from multiple institutions, including academia, schools, science, the public, and the military. Then there was the market for von Osten and his remarkable horse, emotional and economic investments that drove the tours, the newspaper stories, and the lectures. Bureaucratic authorities were assembled to measure and test the horse's abilities. A constellation of financial, cultural, and scientific interests had a part to play in the construction of Hans's intelligence and a stake in whether it was truly remarkable. We can see two distinct mythologies at work. The first myth is that non-human systems, be it computers or horses, are analogues for human minds. This perspective assumes that with sufficient training or enough resources, human-like intelligence can be created from scratch, without addressing the fundamental ways in which humans are embodied, relational, and set within wider ecologies. The second myth is that intelligence is something that exists independently, as though it were natural and distinct from social, cultural, historical, and political forces. In fact, the concept of intelligence has done inordinate